Bright Tuty. Every student matters.
Today we are going to start with Unit 8 of Class 12th Sociology, that is Education, Media and Social Change. This unit we have divided into two parts. The first part is Education as a factor of social change, where we are going to discuss about that how education has played an important role in bringing the change in the society. In the second part of this chapter, we are going to discuss about the role of media and how that media led to bring change in Indian society. So let's start with the first part. Firstly, if we talk about education, education is an important factor which is playing an important role in any of the society. Here, while we are talking about education as a factor of social change, we can see that how Emil Durkheim has defined education as the socialization of younger generation. Means while he are talking about bringing the change in the younger generation. Here, he has discussed the basic aim of education. He has mentioned the first basic aim of the education is to maintain or sustain society. Means how education is going to help to bring the society as a one, where it is helping it in maintaining or sustaining for longer period of time. Second aim of this education is to ensure continuity and stability. When you are talking about the continuity in the growth and the progress, it should not get stagnant, it should not stop at a point, it should keep on going. Then education can be considered as an important factor for any of the society. Here we can say that although in different parts the education can play different roles, we can say that education is a dynamic factor which can bring the different changes in the society. It performs the functions of an a function of as a initiator of the society. Initiator, because education, if we talk about, is an important tool actually, which reduces the differences among the different communities, different religious group. Through education only we can think of getting developed through education only we can talk about the success or the growth of a society. Why education is important? Education is important because it generates new ideas, it generates new values and also transmit them to the younger generation. So, when we are starting the socialization of younger generation, that is very important because that generation is going to take forward that system which will be helpful in the upcoming years. Now, we are going to discuss about that how society and education are both interrelated to each other. Society, we know that how we can define the society. The society is a unit where the different community people are living and interacting with each other for the different purposes. And if we talk about education, how this education is related to society. So, we have to talk about that. Firstly, we can say that education emerges out of the needs of society. Means, according to the needs of the people living in the particular society, the result could be the existence of education, which is helping in the emergence of education. Here, if we talk about these needs, could be for unity, stability and continuity. When we are talking about uniformity, when these different diverse groups are existing in our society, and there also arising the need for uniformity, that is unity, stability as well as continuity in that particular society, so that education can play an important role in that area. This way of life, if we talk about it, consists of different custom, knowledge and skills, and education trains younger generation. Basically, the younger generation here we are talking about the younger generation, and this education trains these younger generation to preserve and to perpetuate this way of life, to take it further, to involve it in the continuity of life. But also, if we talk about education trains people to develop new ideas and adjust to the changing environment. It is something which is making the people more rational, more practical in adjusting with the new changes arising in the society. Because we have already discussed the different changes which are bringing the different factors. We have already discussed the different factors which are bringing the change in the Indian society. So either these factors are present within the society, or it could be outside the society. So here, the education is going to play an important role in dealing with those changes. Next, we can talk the process of education begins in the family. You all must be knowing that mother is considered as the first teacher of a child. The reason being, whether the mother is literate or illiterate, we are not going to consider this factor while we are talking about that education begins in the family. Because being illiterate also, so many things are there, or the values are there which are passes on from that particular generation of mother to the next generation to their child. So when we are talking about the importance of education in the family, we can say that parents and family play an important and informal role in education. So parents and the other family members playing an important informal role in education. But education continues through special social agencies, especially if we talk about the schools, we can include, and the other institutions or organizations. Schools are a social necessity for providing the special learning. So that's why the emergence of different schools at different levels taking place, which is bringing the change in the society, which is spreading the knowledge and education among the masses. In a simple society, we talk about in the ancient time, the family was able to provide that knowledge as well as the skills which were required. But in the modern time, the family is not the only basis for providing all these skills, knowledge, which are the need of the society in modern days. Thus, in a modern society, what is required? The role of the family. The role of the family has reduced. Clear? The role of the family, we can say, has been reduced in the modern families, but it has been passed on to the institution, the schools, colleges and all. The formal education institutions are taking up those spaces, are taking up the space as earlier it was done by the family members or under the guidance of the families. Now this scenario is changing. So here we can see that how the society and the education are developing, how these both are playing an important role, bringing the change in the society and ultimately leading to the growth and development of a country. We can say that there is a close relationship between education and culture. Here both are connected. Education is the process through which the culture of the society is transmitted to younger generations. These younger generation, if we talk about, they are getting to know about their own culture through education only. And culture, if we talk about, is the way of life that is found in a society. It includes knowledge, skills, norms, values, beliefs, attitudes, and so on. So these younger generation, if we talk about, they are getting the transmission of these values and these ideas with the help of education. Education promotes the development of new skills and ideas also, that we also know that new skills and ideas are also being promoted by this education. So we can say, we can conclude here that education can lead to cultural change in the society. Next, we can see that there is a close relationship between education and social stratification. Here, if we talk about modern education foster, basically, here we can see that modern education fosters values like equality, freedom, and scientific temper, the scientific approach we can talk about. Here, the relation between the education and social stratification is playing an important role, bringing the change in the present society. And in the modern, with the advancement, and we can say that with the introduction of modern education, all these changes are taking place rapidly. This modern education also create awareness against inequality, social deprivation, as well as against all sorts of discrimination. Because after getting that knowledge, the young generations are also getting the idea that what actually are the basis of the society and how the things are going on. If any sort of, with the help of this education, we can say they are getting the idea that what kinds of things are going on in the society which are in their favor and which are against them. Here if we talk about, they are learning about the values related to equality. They are talking about and they are very well aware about their freedom, their rights, their scientific temper, also the approach they are using to deal with the different factors prevailing in the society. And because of that education, somewhere they are getting the advantage, because they are getting the knowledge against the inequalities and the other evils, or the other, or we can say against the other practices which are prevailing in our Indian society. If we talk about another point, that is the political system is another important dimension, related to education, in which education plays an important role. This political system, while a political system directly influences the educational system, it is in turn affected by the latter. Means both are interdependent sort of, one is affecting another. Political system directly having the impact on our education system, and the same way education system is also being affected by the politics. The ideas of democracy, socialism, secularism, social justice, they have essentially grown in the modern times, and that was because of this educational development in our society. And many of the economists, if we talk about, they have started adopting this education as a factor which leads to economic growth also. So here we can see that how the political system and education are both interrelated to each other. The next we can see that how educational system also diversifies the economic system in our society. This educational system, basically it provides the different skills and trainings for different occupations. Somewhere if the people are educated, in mostly we talk about the urban centers where the people are, where we could find the skilled people and the trained people. So somewhere they are going to have the impact in their economic life also, in the economic sphere of their life. Many of the economists now, they have started accepting that education as a factor which promotes economic growth also. So, if we are talking about the growth in economic sector, so that also could be the result of this educational system. While we are talking about that how this educational system provides the different skills and trainings for the different occupation, it prepares younger people for occupying the different positions according to education and skills or the training that they are getting. So somewhere it is going to improve their status. It is going to help them economically also. It is going to improve their standard of living. Now we'll do the discussion over education and social change. We are going to discuss that how this education is going to bring the change in the society, how it is leading in a very positive way, and what is actually going to be the impact, that we have to see that whether the impact is going to be uniform, that every time we are getting the positive impact or somewhere it is going to have the negative. So we need to understand whenever we are talking about the impact of one factor on the other. So firstly we'll start that education acts as an agent of social change, where we have already discussed that it is the initiator which is initiating to bring the change in the society. Education engages itself in a much more positive action, and most of the time if we are going to see that impact of this education system is always going to be the positive one, which is bringing the positive change in the society. It inculcates in the younger generations whatever changes are desirable for rebuilding a society. If we talk about younger generations are getting the benefit due to education, where they are able to bring the desirable changes required as per the need of the society in future. Next, if we talk about, we can take education as an important instrument of modernization, because education is something which is changing it helps in changing the outlook. It helping to change the outlook of the people. If we talk about values such as equality, liberty, scientific temper, humanism and ideas against blind faith, it paved the way for modernization. So when the education system was introduced, and the modern education basically we talk about, so it started bringing the change in the beliefs and the ideas of people. It helped them to deal with the different issues in a more rational and more practical way and more advanced way. It made the people more flexible. It helped them to deal with the different evils prevailing in the society even. It paved the way for modernization, and all these values, the attitude of the people due to this change brought due to this education, the idea or the awareness about the liberty, equality, and here if we are talking about all these things led to removing the blind faith, which led to the modernization. In ancient India, if we talk about in the traditional time, the education was provided by the family kin group. Kin group means the relatives were those who were playing an important role in transmitting the education. Kin group and society as a whole through participation in daily life, means practically the children, practically the youth were more involved in the different activities through the informal means. Instead of getting through the formal, through informal means they were getting the education. Earlier mainly the Brahmins acted as a formal teachers, and most of the time this education was not having. Here if we talk about the Brahmins acted as the formal teachers, rest other group of the Hindu society, if we talk about the other caste group people, they were not having the access to education. So teaching center, so we can say that somewhere the high caste group people were only having the access to that education in ancient time. Teaching centers at that time were called Gurukuls or Vidyalayas. But when the modern education system appeared in India, with the establishment of British rule, so many changes were visible. So many changes started occurring in Indian society. The most important one was the access to education by all, where slowly and gradually this kind of division started removing, and all the people belonging to different community, different religious group, different caste group, they were having the access to education. By the middle of the 19th century, we talk about, they changed their policy. The Britishers, they changed their policy, and later they decided to introduce European literature and science in India, because before that what they were doing, they were following with the traditional system of education that was already prevailing in India. They were following the same, and they were bringing the changes in that only. But later on, by the middle of 19th century, they realized the need for bringing the change in that system. So they introduced European literature as well as science in India to make English as the medium of instructions, and English language was introduced to teach in schools and institutions during British rule. But we can say that this policy of Britishers, somewhere it had a negative impact, because most of the time during this time period only the upper class, but we can say that somewhere the negative impact was that the policy introduced by these Britishers during that time, it concentrated mainly on the education of upper class or the middle class people. Means by that time also access was not reached to low class people. So only the upper class and middle class people got that access. So accordingly, what happened? Thus, the 90% of the population was illiterate till 20th century in India. So here we can conclude that when the education system was introduced during the colonial rule, it had several good points too. Although we have seen the negative impact was there, only the 90% of the population, we have seen that 90% of the population was illiterate, and advantage was only given to upper class or the middle class people. So if we talk about the good points related to this education system introduced in our country, it gave a fundamentally different orientation to the educational system. Means the basic things were given to the educational system, few basic changes were brought in that education. Means introduction of the English was taken as the language of instructions. Beside that, the system of education was changed. Now it was not confined only in the hand of upper Hindu caste group. It was provided to all. It helped in laying the foundation of modern education in India. The changes brought or introduced by Britishers laid the foundation for modernization in India. Here if we talk about, it classified educational system into this. Here we can say that it classified educational institution into different categories, like primary, then high school, then colleges. So these divisions were also done, and the different system or the advanced system was followed in education. After independence, if we talk about, it was recognized that education formed a vital aspect of modernization process, which helped in initiating the modernization process in India. Therefore, educational reform was accepted as an important agenda of national development. Somewhere when we were talking about modernization, we started talking about the development also, growth of the nation, and this education, the reform, educational reform means changes that were brought in the system were adopted and were accepted as important factor which were leading to, which were going to lead to national development in future. And after independence, a comprehensive constitutional and policy framework was also developed with the same aim, that is the national development. Next, if we talk about the successive 5-year plans, augmented the scope while launching several programs of educational development. During that time period, apart from expansion and spread of the educational opportunities at different level, more emphasis were given to improve the condition of women. So the new provisions were also added on in the constitution to provide them more access to the education, because it was believed that the empowerment of the women is a critical precondition, is a very necessary or the vital precondition for national development. If we are talking about the development of any nation, until and unless we are not providing the equal access to all the people of the country, we cannot talk about the growth or the development of the nation. So it was considered as an important factor to provide education to women. So we can see that how the special emphasis has been given to improve the status of women. The girl child has now become a target group where the policies framed by the government, they are more focusing on providing the education to girl child. Educational development of the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes has received added attention, means the policies are also coming in the favor of these scheduled caste and scheduled tribes, where the more importance or more focus is being given on their education. The national policy on education, if we talk about it, envisages that free and compulsory education, and under that project Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan was also initiated. That was Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan. Under that, the free and compulsory education for all the children up to the age of 14 years was made compulsory. This target of universalizing elementary education is yet to be achieved. Although this was initiated, but due to some flaws and all the limitations in these programs, we haven't achieved it yet, but it is in process. But if we are able to adopt this policy, the Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan, or we are talking about the universalization of education for all, then definitely it is going to bring the change in Indian society, and rapidly it is going to take it towards the development or the growth of the nation. We have seen that education has acted as a strong modernizing force in Indian society by bringing the changes in the beliefs and the ideas of the people. It has totally changed the outlook of the people, we can say. How it has changed the attitude or the approach of the people towards the different issues, towards the different areas. It has given an additional responsibility to the education system, definitely, because it is a very big change that we are talking about to bring. It is not a very easy to bring the change in the society. If we are talking about to bring that much bigger change in the society, we need to focus on the whole educational system. If we talk about, a large number of lower caste children have entered educational institution at all the levels now, and this access provided to them is also the indicator of bringing the change in the society. Their aspirations and abilities being different, leading to a new orientation, is necessary to find out their talent and capacity so that their education needs could be fulfilled. Their educational needs could be fulfilled. So we need to understand, we need to get what are their abilities, what are their aspirations, especially we are talking about these lower caste children who can also play an important role bringing that growth in our society. So we need to understand the importance and as well as the needs of these people also.